Please stand. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray for that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please call a roll?
Counsel Leahy.
Here.
Counsel Leary.
Here.
Counsel Mercia.
Here.
Counsel Milonazo.
Here.
Counsel Rourke.
Here.
Counsel Samaras.
Here.
Counsel Belanger.
Here.
Counsel Elliott.
Here.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yeah.
9 present.
Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chamber for Mr. Rainey P. Gauthier, a lifelong resident of the city of Lowell. He was educated in the Lowell school system. He went on to attend the New England Barber School of Boston. He operated his own barber shop from 1955 to 1975. He then joined the staff of UMass Lowell as a lab technician. Rainey was a veteran of World War II in the Army Medical Corps. Rainey was a former member of St. Jean d'Arc Parish and is now a St. Francis Church in Dracut parishioner. Mr. Gauthier is survived by his wife of 60 years, Simone Gauthier, his son Norman R. Gauthier, affiliated with the United States Post Office in Chelmsford, a son-in-law attorney Morris P. Mason, and many loving nieces and nephews. Rainey was predeceased by his precious daughter, Louise Claire Mason, his grandson, John Andrew Mason. Mr. Gauthier was very active with the Franco-American War Vets and the Franco-American Day Committee. He was very proud of his Franco-American roots. We offer our condolences to his family, relatives, and many friends. He will be truly missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Before we begin the agenda, this is National Small Business Week, and in celebration of National Small Business Week, I'd like to welcome some of the small businesses from Lowell and invite them to come to the microphone to introduce themselves. The first is the Athenian Corner, and Teddy Panis, is he here? Okay. The next is Brood Awakening, Andy Jacobson.
Hi, Andy Jacobson from Brood Awakening Coffee House.
Thank you, Andy. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Look at it as a little TV commercial, I guess. Next from Cody's Market, Roger Lavassa.
I brought a little note. We want to thank the City of Lowell and the City Council for this honor. As a small business owner, we take pride in keeping our business in Lowell. For the past 100 years, we hope to continue. We appreciate the city's Department of Planning and Development that worked with us on the facelift for our establishment back in 2012. This is a great city, and we feel fortunate to belong to a small business community that supports us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the Emmanuel Boutique. And correct me if I'm wrong, this is a tough one for me, Yodelkui Bitanis?
My name is Jadelki Betances. I own Emmanuel Boutique, 68 Merrimack Street. And I say thank you, the city, for be supporting the store for 11 years.
And Nana's Kitchen, Natalia?
Nana's Kitchen, Natalia Cardoso. Thank you so much, the City Hall, 4 years.
The Torpy Travel Agency, Chan Unhung?
Good evening. My name is Shan from Topic Travel, and I would like to say thank you, the City of Lowell, for supporting our small business here. Thank you.
And Yamitos Candle, Daniela?
Hi, I'm Daniela with Imitos Candle. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations to everybody. Then returning to the council agenda, the first order of business is under the city clerk. We have the minutes of the Finance Committee of April 24th, of the Downtown Redevelopment Subcommittee of April 25th, and the City Council meeting of April 25th for acceptance. Council Samaras.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to amend the minutes of the meeting. On the motion made by Mr. Rourke to review procedures of the Board of Parks for implementation and the waiver of fees for the use of fields for local groups, in the minutes, you'd assume that I was supporting that. I want it very clear that I do not support the giving of fees, charging fees for local groups to use our fields. I feel that if we were to develop programs to support these children, the costs would be astronomical, but because we have so many volunteers and because of the good work that they do, our streets are a lot safer. So I just wanted to be clear that I don't support the use of fees. Thank you.
Okay, so Councilor Samaras is asking that we amend the minutes. Do we have a second to that by Councilor Rourke? Discussion. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. So the correct motion would be to accept the minutes of the meetings that I've described already, accept them and place on file with the city council minutes as amended. We have a motion by Councilor Mercy, a second by Councilor Rourke. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed. Next, Councilor Mercy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to suspend the rules and ask that instead of, before we go into the responses to motions, if we could take something out of Order 5.1, which is the resolution for the Cameroonians. There's a number of people here that would like to just speak on this, and I wouldn't want to keep them here all night.
Okay. Councilor Mercier has asked that we suspend the rules in order to take item 5.1 out of order. If there's no objection, we'll do that by general consent. Hearing no objection, we'll take 5.1 out of order. 5.1 is a resolution to support for the Southern Cameroon community in New England. If there's no objection, we'll waive the full first reading, go to the second reading, which is a resolution to support the Southern Cameroon community in New England in its desire to restore its national sovereignty through a democratically organized referendum. And we have several speakers, I think.
We just have
One
one.
speaker, okay.
Yeah. Fruit Nimbang.
Nembang.
Mr. Mayor, City Councilors, I have Attorney Ernest Kwacham on my left and the President of the Cameroonians of Lowell on my right and the Cameroonian community. In May 2002, Councilor Rita Mercier, then Mayor, welcomed His Royal Highness King Angwafo III of Mancon in Bamenda in this noble council and bestow on him the honorary title of member of this council. On November 5th, 2002, Mayor Rita Mercier and the City Council voted to establish a transatlantic sister city relationship with Bamenda in the southern Cameroon. The Cameroonian community in Lowell is very thankful for your support and hospitality to make Lowell our home. In November 2016, a bloody political crisis erupted in Cameroon, resulting in the death, rape, mass persecution, and non-violent citizens in the English-speaking regions of Cameroon. Today, 7 months later, the persecution continues with deliberate government policies that have led to internet blackout, followed by kidnapping, disappearance, mass abduction, mass killing, and mass burial of English-speaking Cameroonians. The current blackout of internet service in English-speaking regions of Cameroon is reminiscent of the conditions that were in Rwanda during the genocide. The Cameroonian community is thankful that we have a friend in this council and in this city to speak out against human rights violation in the southern Cameroon. This council, by this resolution, is sending a powerful message of support to the peaceful people of Bamenda in the southern Cameroon. On May 11, 2017, at 7 p.m. at Lowell Telecommunication, we will have a panel discussion to discuss the crisis in Cameroon. And on Saturday, May 3rd, we are having a peaceful march starting from Lowell High to the City Hall. May God continue to nourish and sustain the good relationship between the people of Lowell and Bamenda and Southern Cameroon. We thank you very much for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the people of Cameroonian descent came to me and asked if this council would support a resolution denouncing all the atrocities that had taken place, and they brought numerous pictures up that would really frighten everyone. Even though they're Lowellians now, their heart still remains in their country, and they know from relatives back home and family members all the atrocities that are going on there. So if they ask us to help in any way, they needed a resolution. And it isn't just about that I brought it up, it's the fact that my colleagues support it. We support it as a body. We can't do it alone. I can't do it alone. But we brought it up last week through the motion. We referred it to the city manager as well as the city solicitor, Christine O'Connor. She brought it up today, and we will vote on it so that you may present it to your government. And that's what you asked for. That's what we try to do. And all of those people that want to attend that conference that you're going to have in May, that'd be wonderful. I'm just thankful to Christine O'Connor, the city solicitor, for the very wonderful resolution that you drew up. There's a panel discussion on May 11th, 2017 at 7 o'clock at LTC, which is 246 Merrimack Street, Market Street. So having the resolution before us, I would ask the mayor if we could have a roll call vote. Thank you.
Approve the resolution by Council Mercy, second by Council Samaras. Council Samaras? Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercier.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Council Belanger, did you want to pass this for signatures?
Yeah, thank you very much. We'll get you that resolution. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Leary.
Can I take, with the suspension of the rules, to take 8.6 out of order? There's a speaker here as well, if I can make a motion for that.
All right, Councilor Leary is requesting suspension of the rules in order to take 8.6 out of order. If there's no objection, we'll do that by general consent. Hearing no objection, we'll take 8.6 out of order, which is a motion by Councilor Leary requesting the city manager work with the appropriate department in order to improve the road drainage issues between Alcott Street and Wynwood Road. Seconded by Councilor Leahy.
There's a
Registered
speaker,
speaker.
yes, a registered speaker.
Lynn Daly.
Good evening. My name is Lynn Daly, resident of 35 Windward Road for 55 years. 55 years of flooding. I am speaking tonight because I want to make sure we are all on the same page 55 years later. Windward Road flooding is due to sanitary sewer overflow. A sanitary sewer overflow, or an SSO, is an unintentional discharge, spill, or release of untreated sewage into the environment or a property. SSOs are also known as sewer backups, and the resulting flooding can cause damage to a property and pollute the environment. When we get heavy downpours of rain, the street floods. I confirmed the SSO situation with the wastewater department last week. I was very surprised to hear that they thought our problem was fixed based on some maintenance that the town of Tewksbury did to a culvert on Clark Road. This has nothing to do with an SSO repair. I was also surprised that they believed the flooding was fixed because no one on Windward Road had called the wastewater in 5 years to report street flooding. I confirmed with my neighbors, many of them are here tonight, that the street has flooded at least once a year for the last 3 years. Not all street flooding requires a call to wastewater. Last year, I called wastewater to report the street flooding, and no one from wastewater responded. I do have to say that that was unusual because they usually do respond. The flood last year was about as bad as it gets, and when a car ended up stuck in my driveway, leaking gasoline, I called the fire department. The fire department was very helpful. So twice, I have been asked to address the city council in favor of the city giving the water department millions of dollars to fix CSOs and SSOs. I did address the council in good faith that the city had a plan. The third time I was asked, I declined because I thought I was being used as a tool and to no avail. I was also able to confirm my thoughts while at the wastewater department last week that when I realized that in all these years, there has never even been a plan. Lowell should have addressed the SSO problem on Windward Road during sewer system master planning and facilities planning years ago. I was also told that the water department does all sorts of things in the city that are not water department related. Windward Road has been flooding from heavy downpours for 55 years, and this city has done nothing to fix it, although millions of dollars of taxpayer money have been allocated to do just that. Many people in this room want to build a high school in this neighborhood, which would require infrastructure that is currently not available. SSOs should be addressed when extending the sewer system into previously unsewered areas. What will the impact be to a neighborhood with a known 55-year-old SSO problem? In closing, it is the duty of this administration and the City Council to fix the SSO problem on Windward Road. Please fix the old infrastructure, the known problem, before you add more insult to injury. I will be following up on this situation with the city and other agencies until its resolution. I'm going to hand out 2 folders. There are pictures The first picture is a picture of sewerage coming out of a manhole. This is not an actual picture of Windward Road, but it is what happens on Windward Road. The second picture is the manhole when the pressure inside the system is so bad that the manhole cover comes up and is lifted off. You have a fountain effect. So they're not actual pictures, but they are indicative of the SSO flooding on Windward Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Leary.
Just briefly, thank you to the city manager. I know after speaking to you about this, you actually have gone out there and have looked at that. This is kind of a backup motion to the Douglas Road drainage issues as well. I think the key really is, at the end of the day, is to diagnose what the issue is and then come up with the right plan to address it. So I'm not an engineer. I know that have begun the process. I have walked around the neighborhood with Mrs. Daly, looking at that area from a variety of different vantage points. I think the concerns at this point need to have a remedy to it. I think equally important, though, is you got to really diagnose essentially what is the root cause. And once we determine that, put the appropriate action plan to have a remedy to it. So I have complete faith that beginning forward, and that the fact that you've already been out there and then working with Mrs. Daly, who's obviously vigilant about this, and rightfully so, that we'll not only diagnose it correctly, but ultimately create the right plan to remedy it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. Next, we'll return to the regular portion of the agenda, which is communications from the city manager. Tonight, we have motion responses A through K, or A through L, I guess, actually, A through K. The first is the berm repair at the Daily School. Any discussion, Council Leary?
Just quickly, thank you very much. Excellent job. And not only that, but they fixed the burn across the street, so they went above and beyond what the motion's intent was, and it looks excellent. Thank you for the timely response.
Any further discussion on item A? Now we'll move on to item B, which is a report on the progress at Veterans Park. Council Leahy.
Thank you. Through you to the manager. Thank you for the report, and it's good information all around. Do we know if this went to the Board of Parks yet?
Mr. Belgard, did the Veterans Park go to the Board of Parks yet? No?
Yes, it has.
It has?
It has. The concept has gone in front of the Board of Parks. We're still developing the scope of work. The first process is to get the money all locked up, which we've done that through the various agents, well, DCR actually.
Yeah.
And my understanding is there's more to come. But right now, we're meeting on Friday at the site, and then from there, we'll start developing that scope of work.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to see where we were in the process of this. And obviously, the motion was brought to me with Representative Nangle, so we want to make sure that he's fully involved with any meetings or anything, so we can reach out to him every time we have a discussion with it.
We'll meet with him on Friday.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on item B? Now we'll move on to item C, which is the street light on West 10th Street. Any discussion? If not, we'll move on to item D, lighting and safety issue at the parking lot on Broadway Street. Any discussion on item D? Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager, Mr. Manager, thank you for the response, but now this motion has to do with the Broadway Street construction bridge, obviously, and there's, with the street being closed there, there's where the Yim's Variety Store is. Adjacent to that is the darkened area where I got calls from constituents there. There's a lot of, let's just say, illicit activity taking place. It's dark down there, and with no traffic flow going by, it just offers cover for a lot of activity. But I see Tom Belgard is here, so Mr. Manager, through you. Now, I understand Yim's Variety owns some of that, but isn't the other parcel owned by DCR or a state entity? Have they been reached out to for assistance, or where are we with this?
Thank you, Councilor. What we ended up doing is we did visit the location, and it is determined that it is at the state parks lot. We examined what Yim had for lighting, and we also encouraged him in ways and means to improve his own lighting and take advantage of some energy credits that might be out there. But as of right now, I have not spoken to the Heritage Park.
Okay, can, Mr. Belga, as a possible, you can reach out to them, see what they can do. It's mostly their property, and it's Mr. Manager, how long is this construction gonna go on for?
The report that's before you tonight estimates, I believe, December of this year will be completed. I'll reach out to DCR and see if
Okay,
we
could
can
you
get
do that,
some
please?
lighting.
Yeah, because this doesn't indicate that. I'd like some sort of, at least an outreach, give it a chance to get some temporary lighting there. That would be great.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you. Thank you very much.
You all set, Counsel?
Yes, thank you,
All right,
Mr.
any
Mayor.
further discussion on item D? If not, we'll move on to item E, which is flood mitigation. Counsel Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, we had a flood subcommittee. Do you want me to report on it now, or do you want me to wait till it comes up on the agenda? It's up to you.
It's up to you, Counsel. You can do it now, or you can wait till
Okay.
later.
All right, then. So last evening, we took two subcommittees on the road. The flood subcommittee, along with the neighborhood subcommittee, met with the Pawtucketville Citizens Council at 7 p.m. at the Wang School to discuss two issues, procedures and protocol for lowering and raising the Pawtucketville bladder dam. And secondly, the potential RFP to sell city-owned land in the Clay Pit Brook area on Townsend, Malden, Lexington, and Shirley Avenue, of which Councilor Danny Rourke, the chair of the neighborhood subcommittee, will give a report on that second issue. We share the duties around here, that's what it is. Those present last night were Fire Chief and Emergency Management Director Jeffrey Winwood, Deputy Director George Rose, City Engineer John Gleason, Wastewater Utility Director Mark Young, Diane Trad, Planning Director, Patty Luckin, Assistant Manager of Planning Department, Christine McCall, Associate Planner, Sarah Brown, Environmental Officer, and practically every city councilor was there, so the city was well presented last night in Pawtucketville, I'll tell you that. We met in response to a motion referred to us by Mayor Kennedy, and we all learned together as a group what the protocol for flooding entails. In April of 2014, an agreement was signed by the city and the president and CEO of Boot Hydropower that spelled out how the crest gates would be managed in advance of forecasted high water events. This became known as the protocol that was agreed to. Protocol utilizes the USGS gauge, United States Geological Survey gauge, and as a guide as well, relies on the NOAA flood stage predictions website for the Merrimack River. When the expected river level reaches 50 feet, the crest gates will be lowered to the crest of the dam. So let me interject at this time that a motion was made by Councilor Elliott and seconded by Councilor Danny Rourke to ask the city manager to negotiate a lower water level with an L and ask if the bladder dam can be lowered when the water level reaches between 47.5 to 48 feet instead of 50. So that is a motion that I'd like recognized here this evening, because that's a motion we had on the floor there at the meeting. And we learned that Enel Management will contact Fire Chief Winwood and George Rose each time the crest gates are lowered for flood mitigation reasons, as they did recently 2 days before in preparation for high flooding. When in the action stage, people will be notified through social media, emails, Twitter, Facebook, and our website. People can also sign up for Civic Ready if those residents do not have the internet or the ability to go online. We have a FEMA flood zone map that shows the points of interest and outlines the flooding areas. This helps us in the planning. We also look at individual streets that are likely to flood, such as Clay Pit Brook area, Rosemont area. We will have neighborhood meetings as necessary to inform groups about the situation and what city officials are doing to mitigate the situation and keep people safe. There is also reverse 911 calls. These responses are for minor flooding. For major flooding, we will have the emergency management team open the operations center and coordinate emergency response by deploying the 2 portable dams on Martin and Beaver Streets over Beaver Brook. We also have a backflow prevention valve installed in a large drainage pipe on Beaver Brook to prevent water from flowing into basement drains in that neighborhood. We have an outside resource such as MEMA, FEMA, National Guard. We have sandbags, generators, cots, etc. Emergency-ready shelters, the Lowell Senior Center, Lowell High School, Songus Center. Food at the Senior Center, Salvation Army, and the Red Cross. We have transportation by way of LRTA buses, DPW trucks. We have 3 fire department rescue boats, Lowell School Department buses. We also have help from National Grid, water and wastewater departments. We learned that the Bladder Dam is 25% complete and should be finished by the end of the year. The fire chief gets to notify us at any time, 24 hours a day, if there is any potential for flooding. We have a great resource here that keeps track of the flooding aspect and capabilities of getting resources into our city quickly. And Al can monitor the Bladder Dam and the level of the water from anywhere. Now, they're attempting to place a red flag. This is only in the planning stages to alert people that they lowered the Bladder Dam. Neighbors thought that this red flag concept was a great idea. I could go on and on for another hour. I don't want to put people asleep, but this is the report of progress, and I think the Pawtuckettville Citizens Council were very happy that we have a plan in place. I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody from the city that was there. They took their time, they explained. It was just a wonderful meeting. Danny?
Okay, so, well,
report
Council,
of-
you spoke of a motion, so I think out of the subcommittee, you want a motion to request that the city manager enter into a discussion with Nell about lowering the threshold.
Yes.
At which point the Bladder Dam would be dropped. Second by Council Rourke. Discussion on the
thank you.
motion. Council Elliott.
It was a very good meeting, and that was a very good report by Councilor Mercier. I just wanted to add, or not add, but I agree with Councilor Mercier. This has been a long-standing, I want to say it's been over 10 years since the whole Bladder Dam or Crest Gate has been proposed, and now it's under construction. But all the residents ever wanted, whether it was with the dam or with the new system, was a protocol, that there was a system in place that when flood stages start upriver hours or even days ahead of time, that there will be a release of water. And I know that there was, at last night, even myself, knowing that the chief, and it's good to know that the chief lives in Pawtuckettville, thank you, Chief, where the flooding happens. But on a serious note, it's good to know the fire chief is at the helm with George Rose from Emergency Operations, that there's a protocol in place. And Elle is now working with the city, which I think that is a monumental achievement, that we have a conversation, there is a dialogue, and that and when it starts to rain a lot, and when it gets to a certain elevation, that the dam is going to go down. What the point that Councilor Mercier brought up in the residents is that they'd like to get it a little bit lower because of the groundwater. That does retain water, and it does raise the groundwater table, and that's when people's basements are still flooding. And if there's a power shortage or something, then it's complicated. And flood insurance does not pay for repairs unless there's been it's been declared a flood. So I just think it's great progress after a long battle that we are there, or we're getting there. And I know you, Mr. Manager, and your administration and prior administration, we've been fighting the fight with NL, and they're finally at the table working with us. So I just wanted to elaborate just a little bit that this is a good thing for the neighborhood, and I think there's probably another motion on the culvert coming forward that we discussed last night.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Any
Mayor.
further discussion on the motion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. You want to wait?
No, this is part of the subcommittee from last night, Mr. Mayor. So the second part of the subcommittee from last night, the joint subcommittee, was an RFP for the address of 700 Bottom Ave, which actually included 10 acres of land to the streets that Council Mercia had referenced earlier. DP Director Diane Trad, along with Patty Lutkin, gave a presentation for the reasoning behind the RFP, why it needs to be done. Along with Diane and Patty, we had Christine and Sarah from the department. And basically, the city is forced to have an RFP be done because the city has an exemption for that land. If we did not have an RFP, the city loses the exemption, and there's a contamination of the soil in a certain area of the 10 acres. So if we did not go through with the RFP, the city would be responsible for the cleanup. So the assessed value of the land was at $700,000, which again, at 10 acres, you could see why the neighborhood would have concerns about it, thinking that this could be bought by somebody and then turned into, whatever, if it's housing or whatnot. But there were many things that were involved that, a developer or whoever paying $700,000 for this particular piece of property would just make it very, I guess you would say, unbuildable, right? There was the conversation from a couple of residents that were there that work in the soil engineering industry that stated to the removal of I guess you would say, dirty dirt or contaminated soil is so incredibly expensive that it would behoove anybody from bidding on the property and going forward. I think one gentleman that was there last night, put the range in the millions of dollars just for that 1 acre that they know is contaminated, and the city hasn't gone outside that 1 acre yet to find out if there's any more contamination. So you can imagine, the cost involved. I think that that Diana and Patty, who did an outstanding job with their presentation, they really calmed the neighborhood down with their answers, and they took all questions. They hit every answer. It was a home run, and at the end of the meeting, all that concern about the RFP really died down altogether. So again, as Councilor Mercy has stated, it was a very well-run meeting through all the city personnel. So thank you very much, and that's the report of progress concerning the RFP.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there's nothing else on flood mitigation, then we'll move on to the Air City redevelopment. Anything on Air City redevelopment, Council Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, Mr. Mayor, to the manager in planning and development, thank you for the timely response. And it looks like we've made some pretty good headway with negotiations, Mr. Manager, with the VFW to realign Tanner Street, which is a major development in that parcel. So can you give us a little update there, how negotiations have gone?
They've gone very well. We needed to take approximately 30 feet from the VFW to make the access into Tanner Street across from the Target entranceway. So obviously they had great concerns about losing that because they have redevelopment plans for that particular area. But we were able to work out an agreement. Kevin Coughlin did a great job negotiating with them. So we've reached an agreement with the VFW, and now we'll just continue on down the roadway and make sure that we work with the neighbors there so that we can get the roadway in as quickly as can be. Plus, there's an earmark from the legislature that's going to help pay for the design costs of the new entranceway.
Wonderful. That is major development, Mr. Mayor. That's great news to that area to help realign that corridor. And I think I'd like to keep this discussion ongoing. It was sort of dormant for a long time, so there's no objection. I'll make a motion to refer this to the Economic Development Subcommittee for further negotiation. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council. So we have a motion by Council Belanger to refer item F to the Economic Development Subcommittee, seconded by Councilor Samaras. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed? Councilor Leahy.
Just a quick question, through you to the manager. When this comes up for discussion after it goes to the subcommittee, when they realign the road, does that basically get split like the old street? Does that basically get split to owners on either side, or there'll be one, the old entrance, right, where the car and the car wash is? What happens to that land?
It'll still be there.
Oh, the road will still be there?
Yeah. But
Oh,
this
we're
will
not
be,
closing.
this will just be a much wider access to the Tanner Street area. Kevin, what council is asking is about the existing Tanner Street. What happens with that when we redevelop the new entranceway to the?
To you, Mr.
Sure.
Manager, the mayor, the design by Watermark is still taking place, so the final plans are not complete, but the streets will remain. There may be some need to work with the owners for different entrance and egress on the sites, but the streets will
I
remain.
just assumed we were gonna close that, and so it's not confusing, and just have the one.
Yeah,
But, okay, I'll wait for
the plans are still underway, so.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, any further discussion on that? Moving on to, so we have a motion to refer that to economic development. Moving on to number G, letter G, Broadway Street Bridge construction update. Any discussion, Council Leahy?
Thank you. Through you to the manager. Did they, thank you for the report and the timeline. So when it says they started the installation of the piles, do we know, did they start that yesterday?
My understanding is they did. And yes, Lisa DeMeo is shaking her head. Yes, they did start it.
Okay. Did we have any, did we make any progress with trying to go after the people who delayed the bridge to pay for, I mean, I would like this to be done by September 1st. So is there any recourse that we had to get extra money from the people that delayed the project so that we can have extra crews to speed up the project? Because if we can get this done by the start of school, especially for our public schools and the start of Lowell, that obviously would be the best scenario. So if we can investigate that and try to see how we can speed this up by a month or so.
Yeah, that one party is National Grid.
Yeah, I know,
delayed it,
and
so-
I think we had talked about that.
Yeah, and we're looking in to see if we can expedite it by, but we are
Is there
looking.
anything in the design where it says that they didn't realize that the elevations were out? I mean, shouldn't they have known that before, the ledge or something?
I think this is more the design by their own engineer.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
not National Grid.
all right, okay. All right, well, anything we can do to speed that up by a month would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on this item? If not, we'll move on to the impact of federal funding cuts. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to I, the feasibility of a regional holding facility. Any discussion? Councilor Leary.
Just first, thank you very much. I appreciate the report, appreciate all the effort going into it, but the last part basically says there's no circling back. So essentially what they're saying is it's basically the state has no plans to do this at all.
Well, they have plans, but they don't have the money to do it, so.
So essentially they have
Yeah.
no plans to do it at all.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing I would do is, could we follow up to see, because I think it's actually an interesting idea for a variety of reasons. I mean, the reason I actually put the motion on is if you take a tour of that facility, that's a seriously challenging area for our folks to be working in. So I think if we could follow up to see if there's a plan coming in in the next budget or what have you in terms of doing that, because it is something we should be looking into. Obviously, the chief laid out pitfalls. That would be a negative side to it. I think maybe if there is potential for funding, we can look into that further. But at the end of the day, it really looks at, we have an issue that could probably be better served by people who are professionals in dealing with that issue as opposed to folks who are trying to prevent crime. So I think we need to do a little bit more than just say this is going to be in. Can we put some little bit of an inquiry into it to the state to see if this is something that other towns and other areas feel is important? But I do appreciate the analysis, and I do appreciate the chief pointing out some of the challenges that may not be of benefit as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this item? If not, we'll move on to the annual lien auction update. We have a registered speaker for the annual lien auction update.
David Ross.
Good evening. Back in February, the City of Lowell, the Planning Development Department, put out a bid package for a piece of property. I did the package, I did the process, and I submitted it on before the deadline. So on March 14th, well, let me go before that. So the committee reviewed my package, and they come to the conclusion that I was the guy for the job. for the property. So on March 14th, on this agenda, it was coming up for the final vote. There was bad weather. Your meeting was canceled. Meanwhile, I was going back with the planning development because they wanted to expedite the process because there was only a limited time to get a building permit in place. There was a building there that was demolished in September. From September to September, you have that time, 1 year, to get a permit into place. So the meter is ticking here. So I got a call saying, okay, we're going to work on the purchase and sales. If the board picks you, let's get this done. That's where we left it. Here we are, 3 months later. No one's called me. No one sent me a letter. I find out at 5 o'clock today that the property is going to be at public auction. Meanwhile, the planning and development has my deposit. I'm ready to go here. And all of a sudden, I get a call today, right before I was coming to this meeting. No one's called me in 3 months. I'm wondering to myself, what's going on? Let me go back 2 years before this. I went through the same process for 603 Chelmsford Street. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that property. Well, I got selected to rehab that property. I'm not a house flipper. My family invested a lot of money into Lowell. And we are just people who just want to make a living and we do everything top notch. I have 2 pictures here of Chelmsford Street I'd like you to see. And I have 9 copies of what I want to say. I might leave out something, so I want to pass out a letter to each of you guys, just so I don't forget anything. And so I'm calling, my attorney's calling. He has already done the title search, okay? That costs a lot of money for a lawyer to do that. I made a model to scale, to show the board what I was putting on the property. I have a lot of time invested in this, and I won the bid. They chose me, and I was in the last phase. The meeting here was canceled. It's never put back on the agenda. I call. No one wants to tell me anything. My lawyer's calling and calling because he's all ready to close the deal once the board does the votes. And again, a woman called me at 5 o'clock today saying, hey, the rules have changed here. What? The rules have changed? How? She goes, well, we changed the policy there. For now, we want it to go to a public auction. I said, well, I already put my bid in. You have my money. You have everything. And you've had it for 3 months. No one's called me. She goes, yeah, well, we figured we could get more revenue if we put it out for public auction. I guess there's 6 properties on this, on the docket to go out to public auction. But I'm wondering why that we already had pretty much a deal, and I'm invested into this, and now you're telling me just to go away. I don't know, there's definitely a miscommunication problem. I don't understand why no one called me in 3 months. I don't understand why I won the bid and they're changing the rules. I was already on the docket here for this meeting. I didn't expect the phone call at 5 o'clock today, but I feel like I'm not a big developer. I'm a small businessman. And everything my family does, as you see the pictures, what I did to Chelmsford Street, people say that house don't belong in Lowell. It's too nice. I'm beautifying it. I had all kinds of people offering me money just for that stained glass window. I refurbished it and put it back in because I wanted to keep the integrity of the house. That's what I do. So why I'm here tonight, I didn't know I was going to get that phone call at 5 o'clock, is to ask the board what happened? Why am I being done away with? Why are they? I paid $1,000 more than the value of the property. Okay? It's not like I'm getting a deal. I paid more than it was worth. So if it goes out to public auction, how much more would they make? Is somebody going to pay double, triple? I don't know. But my thing is, we made a deal. I got my bid in on time. And now they're telling me today, after 3 months, oh no. No. I don't understand. That's why I'm here tonight.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Manager?
I found out about this around 4 o'clock this afternoon, so I wasn't involved in this, but I know, Christine, you were involved in this, and Diane Trad. Could you just explain to the council the background to this issue?
Sure thing. It also came to my attention today that there was this issue had occurred, and I understand after having spoken to you on the phone that both you and your attorney had been, during this 3-month period, contacting the DPD, and I had called you
Yes.
for 2 reasons. One, first, and again, to apologize that this occurred, and to secondly, to convey to you what had happened. And prior to this property being available for an RFP, there had already been an internal decision that this group of properties would be included in a live auction. And the purpose of the live auction was to explore whether more competition would be available for properties that the city was disposing. And in fact, this particular property is another example where even though we likely have a very good bid, there was only one bid, and it was only slightly over the minimum bid price of $50,000, and the bid was $51,000. So the idea behind the live auction was to have more competition. That being said, and that decision was made prior to this particular property going out to bid. That being said, clearly there should have been communication to the bidder long before 5 o'clock today. And again, for that, on behalf of the city, I would apologize to the bidder. And secondly, it was the intent actually to contact the bidder as soon as the mistake, so to speak, was discovered, and not only to convey that information, but also to explain what the new process was, and to hope that along with other potential bidders for a live auction, that this particular bidder would participate as well.
Mr. Manager, anything else?
That's all I know about the issue.
Okay, Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is to this gentleman, did you submit a check for $5,000?
I did.
And you gave it to the city?
They still have it.
So you don't have it, they still have it?
They've had it for 3 months.
When is this live auction coming?
The date hasn't yet been set. This was one of the properties that was included in the bid for auctioneer services. And, and although the date hasn't yet been set, as I indicated in this week's memorandum as well as last week's, prior to the properties being released, they would come before the council. In the same way that prior to disposing of the property from an RFP process, it would come before the council.
Well, last week, when we talked about this issue, it said that there would be 6 pieces of property for an auction to be in tax lien, and I asked if you could give me a list of these 6 things, and this is what we have here. And I'm going to say that I'm not without making mistakes. I've made plenty of mistakes in my life. But I think the city has an obligation where they already, in good faith, took his money. He should be entitled to that piece of property. So you made a mistake, correct it. Have your live auction -1. That's my opinion right here. I'm not an attorney, but you did this man wrong through a fault of nobody's fault. If this were me and I was sitting in your seat, Mr. Manager, this man would not be given his money back. He would be entitled to that property, and that's my opinion. If you could do that, this is the only right thing to do. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a real estate agent, but the minute he gave that money, there was a transaction, and so the rules changed. That's not his fault that the rules changed. Time and time again, we see discrepancies and people getting wronged, and nobody corrects it in such a way. Let's be big enough to give this man what is due him. That's my opinion. So we're going to take a loss, but we're going to own up to what mistake we made. That's my opinion.
Counselor, did you want to make a motion to refer this to the city manager for report and recommendation?
I want to refer this to the city manager so he could remove this piece of property and have a silent auction of 5 and make things right. That's my opinion.
Second by Councilor Milonazo. Did you want to speak on it, Council?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Council Mercier. I think that this property should be removed from the auction list, and that, from what I heard from the city solicitor, that a decision had been made to remove it from a bid, but yet then it was still bid. So Mr. Foss actually followed the rules. He submitted his $5,000, and then he didn't hear from anybody. So, again, and I also. Again, the attorney should be cautioning us in that, this could lead to litigation. So whether or not this should at some point go into executive session, my concern is that he has been wronged, and that I support the motion that this property should be removed from the list and we go to 5.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Council Blanchard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. I do concur with my colleagues, but I know this parcel well. For starters, Mr. Foss did make a comment I didn't really appreciate too much about some of his construction is, quote, too nice for Lowell. But Mr. Foss, I've got news for you. Lowell has a lot of nice, beautiful homes, okay? But however, you do have a good argument, okay? I do agree with my colleagues. Number one, this parcel is on Lawrence Street. It's about 4,000 square feet, to my recollection. It's on a very dangerous bend. It's a blind driveway, if you will. I'm not so sure anything should be built there, to be honest with you, as much as we do need revenue. But I do second guess that to begin with. But it sounds like Mr. Foss did everything right. And you can't change the game at the final hour because we didn't get what we wanted to get. Matter of fact, he did exceed slightly the asking price for the property. So I think the city needs to live up to its obligations here. Mistakes were made, it happens. Let's not point fingers, but let's just fix it and move on. I agree with the motion to have a live auction -1. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Samaras.
No, I'm in agreement with what's been stated. The issue is, I think as councilors, as a city, we want to make sure that we get the best and the most amount of money for any property that we sell. I mean, because we do represent the taxpayers, and we want to make sure that we do right by them. But I do believe that if you establish I'm concerned about a lawsuit, but I'm also concerned that if you have a protocol and you have people follow that protocol, and I can ask the city solicitor, was the protocol that was out there followed? In other words, did he follow the protocol that was expected at that time?
Yes, he responded to the bid, and he had a bid that complied with the specifications in it.
Yeah. So the thing is, this is not an issue where it's a blame game type of thing. I can understand what happened, but I think if we're going to build a sense of trust with everybody that we deal with, this is really a matter about trust and organization and the ability for an organization to act in a correct fashion. So I think it's important that the city manager review this so this doesn't happen again. But I think this has to be resolved because I think these are the issues that leave a bad taste in people's mouths, or people will make comments as to does the city know what it's doing? The city has shown the past few years a lot of good moves, a lot of programs that have been very effective, and I don't want to see something as minor as this or small as this. This to me is an anomaly. And by being an anomaly, it's just something that happened. And I don't worry about it, but I'd like to see it resolved. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion on this on the motion? If not, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, item K, the charter school reimbursement. Any discussion on that, Counselor Elliott?
Thank you for the report, Mr. Manager and Madam Solicitor. This is as frustrating as it perhaps gets. I do realize that the budget has been adopted by the House, and there were many amendments, or several amendments, to the FY 2018 budget, and all of them were disposed of relative to the charter school reimbursement. And just for our viewers at home and taxpayers, the city pays $10.3 million now every year, and only partial reimbursement. Isn't it 10? It's more. Oh, no, it's more.
It's about a $20 million assessment with a $3 million reimbursement, so it's really $17 million net to us.
Okay, so my number, I apologize, I get the number. So it's 17, and we only get $3 million back from the state, which is frustrating. I mean, these are educational costs. It's public education, and the issue is that we should be reimbursed to that full amount. Otherwise, it comes, it comes out of our general local aid. So I appreciate the report. I'm not really sure where to go from here. I do know my thought, my conversation with you, Mr. Manager, and the solicitor is those amendments were filed by this. I mean, there was many communities that would benefit from this, and it's incumbent upon the legislature to fund the charter schools. And maybe thinking that we need to reach out to Boston and Malden and all the other communities that are cited, and to form a coalition, if you will, to file a home rule petition. And for people at home, if I guess the point is this, I'll cut to the chase. Considering the amendments that failed, that did not make it a variety of amendments to get reimbursements to those communities that have to have charter schools, none of them made it. So does it make any sense to send that down? I don't know, Mr. Manager, you were at the legislature. I really kind of deferred to you in the legislature, you and the solicitor to move this forward, but I don't want to, no sense of having an exercise in futility as well. I mean, any other options, Mr. Manager?
I mean, this happened all the time when I was in the legislature, so it's not a recent development, is that it's always been underfunded for years, so. But I'll continue to work with the local delegation to see if we can get at least some relief on it. And we also have the Senate budget coming up that will at least explore opportunities to at least increase it in the Senate budget if we can.
Okay. Okay. That's the essence of the issue. This is one of these new budget busters. We control health insurance. We get in control of the pension liability, and this is just a cost that increases, $2-3 million every year without any support from the state, and it's really hurting our budget. So that was the idea, to get a home rule petition, to have the legislature fund this, have the governor fund this to the full amount to provide the education. It's public education. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. If I could add, this is just going to get more expensive. I think you said it's $20 million. We get reimbursed $3 million, so it's $17 million. It's only going to get, and it's gotten more expensive just in the past couple of years, and it's going to continue like that. So I think the idea of doing a home rule petition makes sense. You got to try something, and so if you don't try, you're never going to get it. But if you try to do it, and you can get other communities to join you, that's what works down on Beacon Hill. So if you can come up with a majority of communities that are interested in the same thing, and everybody should be. So I would just urge you to maybe put that in and just go forward with that. But I do think it needs to be a coalition if it's going to be successful.
Is that in the form of a motion, Mr. Mayor? I'll second your motion I think that we should pursue it. I don't want to put the delegation in a tight spot, but we did have, some representatives file amendments to this effect, or at least sign on to some of them. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm with you. I'm good with it.
Okay, all right, so that'll be a motion, seconded by Councilor Elliott. Discussion on that? All in favor, all opposed, so voted.
Just quickly, Mayor, too, just to follow up on a question, I agree with Councilor Elliott, but also looking at different costs, like busing. I mean, busing costs are, almost in double digits in terms of it. We don't get anything charged back from the charter schools in that, do we? I think that's something we can look into, is other ways of other resources that we're actually working on. Do we get a chargeback? Because I know there's allocations throughout the school budget, and it ultimately comes out to the funding, the Chapter 70 funding, ultimately, and some of our funding to do that. Is there a way to charge back a part of that for busing? I know the answer at this point is probably no, but looking at different things where there's an extraordinary cost there that impacts the district and ultimately the city, is there something that the charter schools could contribute based on some of these increases? Again, it's probably another challenge, but I think like what the mayor just said, if you don't ask, you're never going to go anywhere with it. Thank you.
Councilor Samaras.
Thank you. In regard to this, Mr. Manager, the way I look at it, this formula is eventually going to have, I think, a devastating effect on our budget, because it's something like, we'll say we've got, as Councilor Elliott said, we've got control of the medical expenditures, pensions, those type of things. But this is something that seems like, by law, we just can't put our hands on it, and it's just going to get worse. Is there a possibility of also looking at joining some other communities like Lowell in filing a suit against the state? In other words, a lawsuit, because I don't think this formula really has the intention to make it. It talks about education, it talks about supporting charter schools. I'm not going to fight that argument. The argument I'm going to fight is when you have a model or a formula that significantly cuts into our budget to pay for our own programs, I think it's something that there's a possibility of a suit. Could that be investigated? I just need some information. Is that possible? Okay.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott.
So, Mr. Mayor, just to dig on the motion to give the solicitor a little bit more direction, that the home rule petition would request that charter school costs, that 100% of the charter school costs are reimbursed to the communities. I think it needs some direction on exactly what the home rule would be, and I think that makes sense. And I think there are a lot of communities. I don't know how many communities. Was it 25, 30, maybe more, maybe 30 plus communities that are going through the same thing that we are. So if there's no objection, that's just a sort of friendly amendment to the amendment for direction to bring that home rule petition back. Thank you.
And some action regarding a possible lawsuit, if we could at least get the information as to what responsibility would we have, and is it possible? Thank you.
Any further discussion on this item? If not, the last item is item L, which is informational, and it's National Small Business Week. Did we already do that at the beginning? So we did. So the chair would entertain a motion to accept the communications and motion response from the city manager and place them on file by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Samaras. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next, we have a communication from the city manager to accept the resignation of William Avidson Jr. for the Lowell Sustainability Council. We have a motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Rourke. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next, we have a communication from the city manager. Is this to be withdrawn?
No, there's two in, there's one.
Okay.
Only one to be withdrawn.
All right, we have a communication from the city manager requesting out-of-state travel for one member of the Lowell Police Department. Do we have a motion to approve by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Rourke? Discussion, roll call.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Leary.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have a vote to transfer the amount of $29,500 to prepare the cemeteries for Memorial Day. If there's no objection, we'll waive the full first reading and go to the second reading to transfer $29,500 in funds to prepare 6 municipal cemeteries for Memorial Day weekend. including repair and service of 2 fences, water spigots, cemetery avenues, botanical gardens, etc. We have a motion approved by Councilor Rourke, seconded by Councilor Samaras. Discussion, roll call.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have a vote to transfer the amount of $110,000 to cover additional needs to support veteran services. If there's no objection, we'll waive the first reading and go to the first reading, which is to transfer $110,000 in funds to cover additional needs to support veterans. We have a motion to approve by Councilor Samaras, seconded by Councilor Rourke. Discussion, roll call.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have a vote for a license agreement at 291 Jackson Street, Lot 5, for Screen Gems Productions Incorporated for the movie Proud Mary. If there's no objection, we'll waive the first reading and go to the second reading, authorizing the city manager to enter into a license agreement with Screen Gems Productions Incorporated with principal offices at 10202 West Washington Boulevard in Culver City, California, for the use of the City of Lowell property at 291 Jackson Street, Lot 5, for the placement of trailers for general use by the production company during the movie production of Proud Mary. Motion approved by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Mercia. Councilor Milonazo.
Question, through you to the city manager, do you know if Councilor Mercia is going to have a role in this movie?
She does have her union card.
I was going to say I will support it only if I can meet Taraji Hanson. She's just amazing. And I do have a call in to the place.
Any further discussion on the motion? Roll call.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next is a vote to accept a gift of $250,000 from the Lowell Housing Authority at this,
$250.
what did I say, 250,000?
Move the question. Move the question.
Move approval.
Vote to accept a gift of $250 from the Lowell Housing Authority. If there's no objection, we'll waive the full reading and go to the second reading, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to accept a gift of $250 for use by the City of Lowell Pollard Memorial Library. We have a motion approved by Councilor Samaras, seconded by Councilor Rourke. Discussion, roll call.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next on the subcommittee reports,
Mr. Mayor?
That's
Sorry, but I just ask for a suspension of the rules, a point of personal privilege. We have a couple of Lowell Boy Scouts here that would like to just come to the podium for their community involvement badge.
To suspend the rules.
Okay, Council workers asked for suspension of rules. If there's no objection, we'll do that by general consent in order to recognize some Boy Scouts.
Thank you,
Councilor
Mr. Mayor. Yeah, they can come up to the podium and they can just say their names, and what better way to prove they were here by being on TV, right?
I'm Shakar.
Hello, I am Max Ty.
We're from Troop 77.
Yes. We are both working for the Citizenship with the Community Merit Badge. Our current requirement is to attend here to witness you all, discuss your many topics that are all very important. Shakar, would you like to add anything?
Can't think of it.
All right. We thank you for your time and allowing us to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Okay, under subcommittee reports, we have the Joint Neighborhoods Floods Issues Subcommittee and the Finance Subcommittee of May 2nd and the Zoning Subcommittee of May 2nd. Did we hear all of those reports?
No, just finance.
Oh, except for the Finance. Okay, Finance Subcommittee, Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be brief. The Finance Subcommittee met this evening. Myself, Council Milonazo, Council Leary on the subcommittee, along with Council Mercia. was in attendance along with the finance team of Mr. Healy, Mr. Baldwin, Mr. Conley. This was the second in the series of finance meetings relative to Lowell High School and financing tonight. This evening, we received a report from the Chief Financial Officer on the impact of a couple of things. First, we talked about the tax shift, the commercial, industrial, and personal property tax shift, as well as the impact of the high school, the various options we'll have on the tax rate. All the information is provided. It will be on the website. Mr. Baldwin, where on the website? Because it's a good report. It says a lot, and I don't want to just reiterate all the information because there are graphs, there are matrices as well that people can look at.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The information can be found on the city website under the city council package or the finance subcommittee package,
Okay, great.
and then we can also put it on the Lowell High School section.
Okay, great. I think that's be appreciated as we move forward. So the various steps, the various impacts is provided, and rather than believe the issue, they're depending upon the option, it will be significant, certainly because we do the 175 shift. Mr. Baldwin did explain the shift that we use here in the city to minimize the impact of residential taxes. We shift to the 175%, and we do this every year, and that does keep taxes as low as we possibly can. The good news is that we have seen strong new growth, new businesses in the city for the last 5 years. There was a dip in 2016, but it was back up to over $3.1 million this fiscal year. That's a good sign. That offsets the impact of costs that we have to absorb. Lastly, there was a motion by Council Milanazzo to have the city administration, the CFO, report on the impact of the tax increment financing, the positive impact, those businesses that we have engaged in a tax incentive to come and expand in the city. And when the financing does start to hit the city budget, that we will see new growth as well as increased valuation from the businesses, the Crosspoint, the Maycom, and other businesses that have come into the city. That is we give them a tax break, is what it is, but it's gradual, and after a 20-year period, they're at full valuation. So that's the report of progress. We will hold the next meeting, I think an important meeting, on debt schedule and debt financing. Mr. Clerk, is that next Tuesday?
Following week, Counselor.
The following week, okay. So that will be
16th.
The 16th at 5:30. Okay, and administration will present a packet of information and presentation on our debt schedule, the impact of debt, as well as other capital projects in the city. So, Mr. Mayor, that is a report of progress from the Finance Subcommittee on the second of a series of Finance Subcommittee meetings on Lowell High School.
Okay, do you need a motion to approve the request by Council Milanazzo for the financial impact of TIFs? Is that basically, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's important for the council and the public to get a report on the TIFs and the valuation that they will bring in the out years when this goes online.
So did you want to make that motion?
Motion made.
Okay, second by Council Milanazzo. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. And the zoning subcommittee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The zoning subcommittee did meet at 5:30 today to, again, talk about the proposed zoning amendments from Development Services. This is something we've been talking about since October. Again, present was Council Belanger and Council Rourke, members of the subcommittee, as well as Council Mercier, Council Leary, Council Samaras, and Council Leahy. What I'd like to do, if it's okay with the mayor and administration, is to table my report until May 9th, at which time the administration will pass out the 13-page document that we're ready as a subcommittee to refer to the city council as a whole, who then will refer it to the planning board.
Okay.
So I'll make that report next Tuesday.
Okay. So the chair would entertain a motion to accept the report as a report of progress for the joint subcommittee and flood issues subcommittee, for the finance committee, and to table the zoning subcommittee report until the 9th of May. A motion to that effect by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Rourke. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next, under petitions, we have one personal property claim. Chair will entertain a motion to refer to the law department for report and recommendation by Councilor Leary, seconded by Councilor Leahy. And we also have a request permission to discuss pedestrian safety in regards to the Lowell High School project. We have a registered speaker.
Bob Montgomery.
Hi, Bob Montgomery. I live at 322 Buttman Road. Good evening. I'd like to start by thanking the City Council for giving me an opportunity to speak tonight. Like a lot of the people that you've heard from in the past, I've become extremely passionate about the high school project and have gone from a point of relative indifference for the matters of city politics to going to multiple meetings every week relative to the issue. Like many of the passionate advocates that I've heard and spoken to on option 4, I'm also a lifelong Lowell resident. I'm now proud to raise a family with multiple kids who set their sights on Lowell High as well. Like many of the good families that we know, I simply want what I feel is best for my kids, my family, and the city as a whole. Unlike them, I feel very strongly that option number 3 is the best option for the city and the city as a whole as we look towards the next 50 years. Now, there are many reasons I feel this way, including access, location, cost to the city. But I don't want to relitigate those points that have been bounced back and forth over the last several weeks. I've either seen or heard all of the council meetings on TV, and I know that all of the city council have been doing everything that you can to sort through all the information that you have and make the best opinion and best decisions you can on the behalf of the city. Instead, I'd like to introduce the issue that's ignited my personal fire, and that's that of juvenile pedestrian safety. I've been called a lot of things for my advocacy of downtown option number 3, NIMBY, not in my backyard. That's kind of a favorite amongst those that look to discredit the validity of my concerns. In truth, maybe there's an element of truth to this, but it has nothing to do with those kids walking through, hanging around, or being in my neighborhood. That would be the height of hypocrisy, since both my wife and I were once those kids. My initial, still unanswered concern focuses on well-intended kids and faculty, which now we estimate to be 600, but I expect will be far larger given the location of that proposal, leaving Lowell High from the Colley site, using my street, Buttman Road, as well as Glenmere Street, Florida Street, Enfield, Dinsmore, Parkview Ave, and Wentworth Street as high-speed cut-throws to escape the bottlenecks that occur every single day after school and turn those streets into sub-highways. Many of those streets, including my own, are currently patrolled by 10 to 14-year-old children that walk home released from either the Sullivan or the Riley School if they're accompanied by an older brother or sister. These roads, including my own, aren't shouldered by sidewalks that allow for a safe passage, but rather are shouldered by residential cars that you can't fit in the driveways and force kids out into the street and into the line of fire. Councilor Leary, about a month ago, fairly and honestly pointed out that sidewalks all the way down Douglas and Clark Roads are not going to happen. I agree with that. I understand that. I'm under no delusion that my street will miraculously be expanded to compensate for this big spike in traffic, including a heavy concentration of statistically the most unsafe drivers in the world. I'd reference a 2007 National Highway Traffic Safety Administration study that reports that 15 to 20-year-old drivers account for only 8.5% of our population, but they represent 12.7% of vehicle-related fatalities. In other words, they're 50% more likely to kill somebody than an average driver. It's not because they're Lowell kids, it's not because they're bad kids, it's because they're kids. That's it. Good parents from the side that support option 4 have rightly cited the need for comprehensive engineering before considering any asbestos abatement related issues. There's been a call for an absolute guarantee for safety for the kids at the high school during renovations and new builds. The 2014 renovation of the Voc has been cited as an example, where they were sued for the presence of non-friable asbestos containing panels that were not packaged correctly during abatement. This presented a completely unnecessary risk, and although the non-friable panels inherently need to be crushed or torn to present an ingestion or inhalation risk, it's still an inexcusable mistake that never needed to happen in the first place. Now, I don't blame parents that feel that way. I sympathize with them. or sympathize with them, sorry. I think we all want what we feel is best for our kids. I think of my two girls, who are 6 and 3, who will be presumably walking home from the Sullivan School when the new high school lets out. Should the Colley site be selected, they'll be combating with up to 600 vehicles traveling down our street at high speed. So my question would be a simple one, and where's my absolute guarantee? There's no consolation if I get to say I told you so because I'm at a funeral. I've seen motions for traffic studies, but absolutely nothing that in any way relates to pedestrian safety, and that's a paramount concern for me. Again, I know the council has been doing very hard, tireless, and often thankless work to meet the needs of our city. I appreciate your time, but I request you consider the pedestrian safety of the children you may be putting directly into harm's way with your site selection. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any discussion? Chair would entertain a motion to refer to the city manager for report and recommendation by Council Milonazo, seconded by Council Leary. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next, under miscellaneous, is request of the City Council to prioritize restriping the existing bicycle lanes in the city each spring, and that has 2 registered speakers.
Petitioner Charles Arnold.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Charles Arnold. I live at 58 Prescott Street in Lowell. The petition before you was developed by the Lowell Bike Coalition and signed by 50 people at our recent Spring Bike Summit. The petition asks the council, in keeping with the city's Complete Streets policy, to prioritize maintenance of bike lanes in the city. That is, provide sufficient budget to the Transportation Department to restripe the bike lanes every spring. We're talking about bike lanes such as those on Chelmsford Street, Andover Street, Merrimack Street, and Route 38 near Shed Park. These are all important routes for many residents and visitors commuting in our city. When bike lane striping weathers and fades, as it inevitably does, the bike lanes essentially disappear. This creates dangerous conditions for cyclists and drivers and discourages people from riding their bikes. After all of us, drivers and cyclists alike, are just trying to get to our destination safely. Bike lanes improve safety for all road users. Bike lanes allow people who might otherwise be reluctant to ride bikes to do so safely, reducing traffic by reducing the number of cars on the road. And people on bikes also reduce the need for parking spots for cars, which is always an issue in our city. Bike lanes are good for business. Studies have shown that neighborhoods and downtowns that build bike infrastructure typically see an increase in business. Therefore, we in the Lowell Bike Coalition urge the City Council to act on this petition and to prioritize the restriping of our existing bike lanes and to provide the Transportation Department with the budget that they need to do so. We ask this in the belief that doing so will make Lowell a safer, healthier, and more prosperous city for all its residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Soleil.
Thank you very much. Appreciate being able to be here and speak with you all. My name is Kevin Soleil. I live at 237 Acropolis Road in Pawtucketville. I'm here also as a member of the coalition, as a Lowell citizen, as I work for UMass Lowell with the campus recreation and oversee the outdoor and bicycle programs there. But today I'm wearing my citizen helmet. All right. So I would largely like to echo a lot of what Charles said. I do want to say that as the Lowell Bike Coalition is here, we're definitely here to help. So wanting to be here to be proactive and to help things go right. And I think that's a lot of what good bike infrastructure will do for us. So if we have bike lanes that are painted in ways that help people do the right thing naturally, I think it'll make for a safer environment for everyone using the road. Currently conditions, so I ride out there every day, a bicycle commute, and I would say that they're inconsistent at best. So I take Varnum Ave a lot from my house, and it's great in some spots and very neglected in others. So really appreciate in the spring being able to have someone from the city come out and evaluate the condition and then just make repairs as needed with the bike lanes. I think that will be all that I will say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mindy Nelson.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mindy Doppler Nelson, 200 Market Street. Many of you already know who I am from speaking at previous council meetings. I'm a public health scientist trained, and so what do the bike lanes do? Well, they keep cyclists out of the road that are breathing in exhaust fumes. So from a public health standpoint, we don't want riders to be deterred from riding and getting in their cars to avoid getting tar and pollutant buildup in their lungs, because we all pay the medical price for that. I'm also a realtor, so I can let you know that I've just sold a whole bunch of properties this week to people who want to be in the downtown because they don't want to have cars. They want to be on bicycles. They want to be on foot. They like the congestion, the convenience of everything that the downtown has and can offer. By removing the bike lanes, people want to ride on sidewalks, even though it's not legal. Many of you know I cycle everywhere. I biked over 4,000 miles last year, and I'm already at close to 2,000 for this year. I commute to work by bicycle. I run my errands by bicycle. I do it for a health standpoint. I do it for an environmental standpoint. I don't like feeling like I'm a target because there is no designated place for me to ride anymore. There are people that when I pass that are on the sidewalk say they'd rather get a fine than risk their life in the street. By encouraging you to repaint those bike lanes, we can encourage more people to get out of their cars, lightening up the traffic, increasing the flow of people moving in and out of downtown without having to have superhighways on places like Thorndike. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Chair would entertain a motion to refer to the city manager for report and recommendation by Council Milonazo, second by Council Rourke. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? All opposed? So voted. Next, under city council motions, the first motion is by Council Leahy, requests that the city manager explore the feasibility of creating an ordinance to ensure permits are issued between 60 and 90 days from the incident in order to rehab or demolish a fire damaged structure. Second by Council Leahy, Council Leahy.
Thank you. Through you, the manager. So we had a quick discussion on this the other day, and the objective would be just to move along any structures that get damaged by fire, flood, or whatever in the city. But just to get these properties moving, try to force the insurance companies to get settlements within a reasonable timeline so that we can get these houses back up to snuff, clean up the neighborhoods, get people back into their daily routine, you know, and just overall help everybody out in the situation. So, you know, if we could all take a look at this through the legal standpoint, through the Sean Shanahan's office, and just see what we can come up with an ordinance that'll work to help get these people, get their homes back on track and get their lives in order again. So anything we can do, would appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next motion is by Councilor Samaras. Request that the city manager request the superintendent of Lowell schools to prepare a presentation and/or report regarding buildings needed to meet the educational plan of the Lowell school system. Second by Councilor Rourke, Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. You know, Mr. Manager, I don't expect the superintendent to state where the high school should be. That is the role of the city council. But he is the educational leader in Lowell, and we must make our decision based on the best information available. Yeah, yes, we have the educational plan for the high school, but if possible, if you could arrange with him to either make a presentation or submit a report, it's his choice, as to what does he see as his needs. In other words, for the overall educational system. We're talking about building needs. Of course, we're talking about the academic needs, supplies, transportation, what have you. But right now, we're in the process of selecting a site for this high school. We want to make sure it's the best selection we can make to offer the best education possible. But we're also responsible for other buildings, maintenance of those buildings, and the possibility of him requiring new buildings. I think if we're going to make decisions, if we're going to talk about the budget, if we're going to talk about so many issues, the more information we can have, the better. So I'm just asking if that's possible, that you can speak to him to come before us. And I think that will offer us the type of information that we need, perhaps, to make the best decision possible. Because whatever we do will affect us for years to come. But to not include the educational, my issue is to not to include the educational leader of the school system in this process, begs the issue a little bit. And I think we have to do that. I think we have to include that. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion on the motion? Counselor Leahy.
Thank you. I just want to add, I think this is a good motion. I think we should hear from the superintendent of schools because, especially this week, we've had a lot of discussion about the science labs and the size and the square footage. But also, what does the library need to look like for the next 20 years? What do the math labs need to look like? So these are all important issues, and we should have some input. So anything we can add to make our decision would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next motion is by Counselor Belanger. Request that the city manager update the city council regarding the JFK Plaza improvements. As a registered speaker, did you want to go first, Counselor?
No, I'll let the speaker go first, Mr.
All
Mayor.
right, do we have a
Thank
second to the motion? By Counselor Leary, Counselor Belanger.
You said
The speaker?
The
I'm
speaker,
sorry.
please, yeah.
I'm in Hebert.
In that case, I'll go first. Go ahead, Mr. Hebert.
I'm in Hebert, 499 Wilder Street. I'd just like to say Council Belanger's hit it right on the head here, because the Civic Center, I hear all this money that the city is appropriating for all these different events. Well, you know what? That is an eyesore. That building, you're putting a nice statue out there. It's like putting a curtain in front of a broken window. You open that curtain, that building's still there. That is the ugliest building going. It was built in the 1970s when they thought concrete was good looking. Okay, it's a concrete building that really needs something to shine it up. Because if you're gonna have the Folk Festival, you're gonna have Winterfest, you're gonna have all these events down here in this JFK Civic Center, they call it, we really gotta dress that building up. Not just the you can put all the artwork you want down there. The artwork is gonna look beautiful. You're gonna walk by that artwork and you're gonna see that ugly building. So I think Councilor Belanger was right on the head with really needing to improve the JFK Center. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Belanger.
Oh, that wasn't so bad after all. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So that being said, and he made some good points. I mean, basically this is inspired. I'm very involved with the Lowell Folk Festival, and they are very concerned. The festival, we are approaching the 90-day mark until the festival, and they want to know that this is going to be ready if they need. So they're very concerned about this. So I would like to motion response in a timely fashion, if I may, Mr. Manager. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion on the motion? Counselor Elliott.
Well, you can see the work is being done out there, so I think that's, and city workers are doing it to save money, and I think progress, and I think at the very least, all those pavers out there are being taken up, and it's going to be improved. And Mr. Manager, my understanding is that those new islands will be complete, just to reassure the Folk Festival Foundation that work will be done before the festival.
Yes, we've already started taking up all of the pavers right now. We're going to put in a new monument island. We'll have a third island out front. We'll be improving the stairways is now going to become seating area for people, and it'll all be done. Our estimate is to get it done before July 1st, so that's more than enough time before the Folk Festival.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this motion? If not, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next motion is by Council Leary and Council Leahy. Request that the city manager initiate an inquiry for a financial review specific to all Gateway City's school building projects as it relates to a needed increase to the square foot reimbursement rate with the MSBA and Treasurer Goldberg. Needs no second. Who wants to go first? Councilor Leary.
Just under the premise of if you don't ask, you don't get some, you don't receive. I think we try to do this in a different approach, looking that we are a gateway city, and other gateway cities are under similar issues. If you look at how the MSBA funding over the years has decreased from 90% down to 78%, and then you're looking at different ways of the funding in terms of what they reimburse and what they don't reimburse. If you look at the city of Lawrence, for example, I think the reimbursement was close to 100% for building that particular school, and now we're dealing with a situation, depending on what the final analysis will be between the reimbursement rate, between 55 and 65, depending on how all the numbers come through, which is a significant decrease. So this is a way to look at it as similar cities that had additional funding increases to their programs. Can we reach out as a gateway city to achieve that, or at least open up that dialogue? If you're looking at costs as it goes up, currently building construction costs are over $500 per square foot. And I think they're reimbursing at, what, $325 per square foot. So there's obvious a significant delta in terms of that. And that's really one of the large reasons, but not the only one, why we're seeing a reduction in the overall percentages. The additional issue is terms of also of bidding. How's the bids going to come out? With the improved economy, you're going to be having a lot of, would there be a lot of competition for that? So as we argue about what location we're actually putting in, I think we also need to really start looking at, now, as a finance subcommittee is looking at the numbers, but seeing if there is any way to see any increase in that. Obviously, we're not going to completely decrease the delta in one fell swoop, but we do need to begin that dialogue. And I think this is a way that that discussion can begin, and maybe we'll see some remedy, albeit small. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. I just want to echo what Councilor Leary said. If you don't ask, you don't receive. So, you know, we have a unique situation here. This is going to be one of the biggest projects ever for the city, probably in the state, for school buildings. You know, and we have a unique city and we have a unique situation here. We're entitled to have a good educational center for our children. So we're undertaking this project. There's no harm in asking the state, you know, please take a look at this. We have a unique set of circumstances and they need to be addressed. Not every school is built in the same manner, and not every city and town is the same. And certainly Lowell, as I said, is so unique, and we have unique needs for our students. We have such diversity here. You know, big, all weekend, we're over at the high school for the production of The Wizard of Oz. I mean, we have a unique situation here with the kids, the sports, the arts that we have. And this all needs to be factored into the construction of a new school for them, along with the science labs and everything else, libraries and math rooms. So we really need to press this issue and ask them to please take a look at this and give us what our fair due is, what our appropriate needs are here for our students and for the city of Lowell. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next motion is by Councilor Leary. Request that the city manager work with the DPW in order to improve the road conditions on Ruth Street. Seconded by Councilor Leahy. Councilor Leary.
Just to drive down it, it speaks for itself, so thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next motion is by Councilor Elliott. Request that the city manager have inspectional services initiate a neighborhood SWAT team to address code violations at dilapidated properties in the city. Seconded by Councilor Belanger. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe this is what the term was way back when, that it was a SWAT team, that there was representatives from the fire, from the police, from building, from health, and they went into certain sections of the neighborhood and walked the neighborhood and found violations. And I know you did it a couple of years ago, Mr. Manager, in a section of Centerville, and it was successful. And it's more often than not, they're absentee landlords. They're collecting big rents, and they don't care. They let the place fall into disrepair. And in some cases, it's the people that live there. You know, I mean, I can point out certainly on Westford Street, School Street, there are some buildings that probably should not be, or they should be condemned, or certainly they're not inhabitable. So my point is maybe we could take a look at this and do it on I know you like to walk, Mr. Manager. You walk every morning. You just walked around the downtown. I think it's a good idea. I think it's effective. I think it sends a message to those other landlords that we're out, we're watching. The council administration is going to hold you accountable. And if it's absentee landlords and not making the improvements, then let's fine them. And I think that's the only thing that works. So I just thought it was a good idea. It has been a success in the past, so perhaps we can identify some pretty poor properties in the city that we should be looking at. And I know there's a motion about there's motion about burned out buildings. I mean, it's awful that they sit there. So anyway, I won't belabor the point. The motion now speaks for itself. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And to Councilor Elliott's point, so I know a couple of years ago we had the NEED program, which sounded like, police, fire, inspections. Was that just a one-time thing that just they did one time? And so do they go anymore, or has that kind of stopped?
Yeah, last summer was the last time I think it was last time, maybe 2 summers ago, we went down by where VIX is, and we walked around the neighborhood with the police, fire, inspections, everybody, and it worked out good. The neighbors were actually coming up to us with suggestions, so we're going to start this again to have that group go out. We're talking about probably doing Lower Highlands, some other areas of Centerville, so we'll let the council know so you can join us if you want to come out and see how it's done.
Just out of curiosity, why wouldn't it happen once every 6 weeks or once a month? Like just you pick a section of the city where you're going here, there, and then the next place. Is it just a manpower issue, or
Yeah,
just?
it really was, and so I guess once the bad weather came to, we said we weren't going to do it. So we'll start it up now that the good weather here is. We'll inform you as to the different places we're going to go to.
Thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. I think that's a good idea. Maybe, in the wintertime, you really can't do a lot of this stuff, but maybe similar to the municipal lien auction, that it happens on an annual, certainly annual or quarterly basis when weather permitting, because there's certainly lots to do, and I think it's good for the city. Thank you.
Councilor Lee.
I just wanted to add that along with this, when you walk in the neighborhood, you'll see what we were talking about in the last few weeks with the barrels being out, mattresses up against fences, and unregistered cars and all that stuff. So that's all important to the neighborhoods too, and they speak to you constantly about the barrels being out and the trash and the mattresses and things like that. So, and I also, while we're kind of talking about the neighborhoods, everybody over in back Central Street is very pleased that we cleaned up that Union Street lot. I mean, that was a mess. It got out of hand, but your office jumped right on that last week, and we got on it, and everybody did a great job with that, and it's all cleaned up now, and I mean, what a difference it makes for the neighborhood. So thank you for that.
Councilor Mercy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. Mr. Manager, do we know who owns that lot? Is it in a butter? Is that part of their yard, or is it just a?
No, actually, it was, I researched the deed and got the name of the owners. I know one of them, and I think he passed away. But the other one, I'm having the police try and trace where that person is to see if we can hold them responsible for the cost of cleanup. But we did find out who the owners are. Now we just have to track them down.
Some years ago, we had such a thing called the yard sale program. And the yard sale program from the planning department said that if there's a piece of property that someone wanted to get rid of and the city possessed it, we could then offer it to an abutter so that it would be put back on the tax roll, and each neighbor could probably have half, and then you wouldn't have stuff like that. I've never in my life seen anything like it. It was piled so high, the whole length of the yard. That's unacceptable. That draws rats. It does all kind of awful.
Make a great point, because as I was there and looking at it, is a neighbor came to me and told me that they own an apartment building on Union Street. They need off-street parking, and they like to purchase that lot from us. So
there you go. See, that could be used for that.
We're going to follow up with them to see if they want to purchase it.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay, any further? Councilor Elliott.
Just quickly, sorry, Mr. Mayor. Is there a lien on the property? The taxes paid in full?
I'm not sure. I I think there is a lien, and there's going to be a further lien for the
Yeah.
cleanup. The problem is we want to make sure we sell it as quickly as possible, because you want to make sure you get the value before
Yeah.
the fines and the liens exceed the value of the
Right,
property.
right.
We put it on the next lien auction?
Yeah, I've already
There you
instructed
go.
her to.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. The next motion of the evening is by Councilor Elliott, requests that the city manager report on current repairs needed at Lowell High School. We have a registered speaker. Do we have a second on the motion? Councilor Leary. Councilor Elliott, do you want to wait for the speaker?
Sure.
I'm in Hebert.
All right, well, maybe I don't want to wait. Just kidding.
I'm in Hebert, 499 Wilder Street. Another good motion. Okay, a lot of the focus on Lowell High lately has been how we're gonna build it, where we're gonna build it, stuff like that. Well, what we've got to understand is there's still kids in that school right now, and they're probably gonna be in there for the next 6 to 10 years, waiting for the new school to be either redeveloped or a new one built, which would take 3 years. Those repairs, you hear in the news, water leaking in the basement, roofs leaking, heating not working, AC not working. All those repairs have got to be done now, because we still have students and faculty in that building that have to be taken care of now. We can't wait till we build a new school, or we remove the, re-demo, or whatever it is they're gonna do there with it. It's gotta be fixed now, and you really need a timeline on all the repairs to be done, and whether they're gonna be done with federal grants, trying to get grants to get those things done. They've gotta be done, and they've gotta be done appropriately and quickly, because there's still students in there, and if there's water, there's roofs leaking, no heat, it's a hazard, and those kids are in jeopardy no matter what you look at, and that school isn't coming tomorrow, so we gotta really repair that school. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott?
Yeah, no, I think Mr. Hebert hit the nail on the head. I mean, I don't think there's anyone interested here that putting good money after a bad problem. But we do have students, and it is going to be a number of years, and I just think it's important to make those repairs. I mean, I think all of us perhaps received the emails and texts of ceiling tiles falling in, certainly the gymnasium leaking. You know, there are some problems that we need to address. I'm not suggesting that we spend millions and millions of dollars, but we have to find that happy medium where it's a safe and healthy environment for kids to go to school, and at the same time knowing that we're moving forward, knowing that there are some major problems at the high school. So the motion speaks for itself. I think we all are aware of it, but it'd be good to know exactly the extent of the problems in classrooms and in common areas, and when let the administrators and students know when that we are going to address them. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Samaras?
No, it's a good motion. The thing is, on my previous motion, asking the superintendent to make a presentation as to what he's looking at, but I don't think you can make a presentation without including some of the issues that they're dealing with at this particular point. So I think that should be included in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. The last motion of the evening is by Councilor Rourke. Request that the city manager of the building department enforce an ordinance mandating that all non-owner occupied buildings and construction sites in the city display a sign indicating a 24-hour working phone number, email address, as well as a current street address for inquiries. The sign should be at least 18 inches by 12 inches with one, I'm sorry, it's pretty specific.
It's got to speak for
Speaks
itself.
for itself, right?
Very, very little
With
talking
a
about it.
1-inch font and displayed at all entrances and exits. Any non-compliances after October 1st, 2017 will be subject to a fine of $100 per day. Seconded by Councilor Samaras. Councilor
Thank you,
Rourke.
sir. So the measurements, Mr. Mayor, came from the planning board, historical board, of what would need to be done in order to make something like this pass. So that's why I was a little specific. This comes from multiple neighborhood meetings that we've had with non-owner occupied buildings that house 3, 4, 5, or 10 different apartments in the area. just last week, over off of Reed Street, we were in front of a multifamily home, and it was disgusting outside of the house, or the multifamily building. There was just trash everywhere and so forth. So I think that, something like this, if it could be created, Mr. Manager, and enforced, instead of the city getting the phone calls all the time, if the owner of the property were getting emails and phone calls and so forth, they'd be maybe more apt to keep a clean area and a clean property, right? And hopefully, to Councilor Leahy's remarks about the trash barrels and the recycle barrels being left out, hopefully something like this could also curb that. So, sorry for the specifics, Mr. Mayor, but hopefully something can be done. Thank you.
I apologize for laughing. It just struck me as funny, that's all. Anyways, we have a registered speaker as well for this motion.
Ahmed Hebert.
I'd like to, Armin Hebert, 499 Wilder Street. I'd like to speak on the construction side of that, because for years I worked in the city, and those 24 hours hotlines, if a construction site put it up, ain't gonna work. Okay, what we used to do, we had that 24-hour hotline. It was usually an answering service. A lot of times messages would get lost. What we used to do is, if we were working on the roads, we'd give a list to the city department, which one was, if it was water, streets, and they usually are open 24 hours a day, and then they'd contact someone on that list. It was usually me because I lived in Lowell. All right, so, and that always worked out fine. It's very tough with construction companies because they're gonna tell you they're gonna give you a 24-hour hotline, and most of the time it's gonna be an answering service, and they're not gonna get back to you. So on that thing, if you've got a construction project, there should also be a number where the city can be contacted in the case of an emergency as a water break, stuff like that, and then the city can contact the appropriate contractor so that they can be addressed, because a lot of times the contractor will give the city a list, like I said, with names, contacts, and then the city would go down the list, and even with the police department too. Like when streets sink and they call your house at 3 a.m, okay? But I think that should also be added into it, that construction, those numbers usually are an answering service, and you're not gonna get much out of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Council Leahy.
So I just wanted some clarification. What's a construction site though? Is it like a roofing job or an addition, or like up to a certain amount, or?
I can get to the manager's response, but anything that would cause a problem to the neighborhood or to neighbors, if it's a roofing job and there's nails all over the place, or just something that someone can be contacted, right? If if
Well, I
someone's out
mean,
of
as
order.
a small business owner, it makes a difference. So do you have to have signs made up for each job now? And is it, if you're only there for a day, or once you start the job? And then we just need to be clear on, does it go to everybody? Roofers, painters, fencing companies? So
Something similar to what
it's a
Kim-
good idea,
yeah,
I like it.
sign.
But I'm just saying,
Did you want to omit painters?
yeah, there's a cost to it. So you gotta make signs up to have displayed for all your jobs, so. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Councilor Elliott.
Have we concluded the agenda, Mr. Mayor? I wanted
Yeah.
to request a suspension of rules to bring up an item regarding a pub crawl this past weekend in the downtown.
Okay, Councilor Elliott is asking for suspension of the rules in order to bring up the Saturday night pub crawl incident. Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, by general consent, we'll suspend the rules. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be brief. I know, and I hope you're working on it, Mr. Manager, but there seems to be, again, a couple of bars downtown that, it was just a couple of weeks ago that I took some video. I was down there. It was only around 10:30, 11. It was way past my bedtime, but, there was a large group of unruly, patrons at this establishment, and I just think that we need to take strong measures with, these bar owners, the consistent bars that have problems, they go before the licensing commission, they get, they get a warning or they get a suspended sentence, and, the nice weather is out, people going downtown, that's a good thing, but later at night, it's becoming, unruly, as we saw, they send out these, this pub crawl, I guess it's done all online by this limited liability corporation, and I don't know what the administration of the chief is doing, but we had, police officers are getting assaulted down there. That means that it's getting out of control, and we need to stay on top of it. And particularly the same bars that come up time and time again with problems. So anything to add on that, Mr. Manager? What we're doing? I mean, I think the license commission. I know we can't get involved, but they got to start suspending them for or taking licenses away.
I copied the city council on it. I've requested the superintendent of police to give me a report of what happened that evening, and also what the contemplated discipline that they're going to recommend to the license commission, and a plan to prevent it in the future. I've already followed up with a couple of the license commission members to tell them that this is a serious issue and they're going to have to address it. So we are following up with what I hope is significant discipline against, especially the one bar that we had to close. I mean, I got texted at, 10 o'clock in the evening that they had to close down one of the bars, Dudley's, because of the overcrowding, the overserving, and the medical condition of a young woman inside. So it's a serious issue. We're going to follow up and make sure it doesn't happen.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and my colleagues. I know we're all concerned about it. I thought it was important to let the people know, to let people that want to go downtown that this is not acceptable behavior and that we're taking strong measures, and we have to stay on top of it. 10 o'clock at night, that is not a good sign. And again, when I was down there, you could just sense that things were starting to get, all geared up. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the chance to speak, Mr. Mayor, and reassuring people in the city that we're on this, and it's not going to be tolerated. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Samarison, Councilor Rourke. Councilor Rourke.
I think it's a quick question, Mr. Manager. When they have an event like that, supposedly there's 500 or 600 people involved, do they go through a permit process? That they go in front of a city or anything like that to have that happen?
1,500.
No, you were asking if there was a permit process? Right. No, there wasn't. There's not a need for a permit. They just do it via social media, and that's how the people show up. But no, there was no permit process because, but that's something to look into, how we can enforce maybe having them have to have permits also.
Thank you.
Good point.
Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Councilor Leahy, then Councilor Lee.
I thought we had this discussion before, and I thought that, some of these are sponsored by Lowell, and I thought that they were required to register with the police department when they have them. I mean, because obviously, the nature of a pub crawl, and then the more people, the whole objective is to go to bar to bar to bar and have drinks, so we've got to register this with the police, and there's got to be food available, and then obviously limits have to be placed on drinks, but
Well, that's why I've asked for the report from the superintendent to find out who was the sponsor and what action we can take against the sponsor and what we can do to make sure those sponsors, like you said, that's a great idea, have to register it with us before it's done.
You all said, Council? Yes. Councilor.
Just not to keep it going, but ultimately the bars must know that a bunch of people are coming to their location. I mean, that's really where you need to attack it, is go right to, you're not going to get them online, that's almost going to be impossible. But you go right to the bars. I know X amount of folks are going to come in there. So if you go to them, and they should be the ones who are registering, that way you can understand who's there. And you can also say no. So if somebody who's a repeat offender has come before you, you can simply, the license commission can say, you know what, you're not going to be allowed to do this. I mean, I guess that's probably the best way to attack it. Thank you.
Councilor Samaras.
Thank you. Looking at another fashion, I think we're looking at Lowell, all of us want to see Lowell in a certain way. We want Lowell to be a college town. We want Lowell to be a city of the arts. We want Lowell to have, I think what we envision, the downtown and many restaurants that people can go, families earlier in the day, and then people afterwards to a comfortable bar and be able to socialize. But we have what I call some, you want to call them muscle bars or whatever, right in the heart of the downtown or in the downtown area. I think we have too many. And I think at some point we have to look at this as an issue, because I think we're going to always be talking about those bars that are not following the rules and set up dangerous situations, or situations which will chase the family, the type of people, the people that we want to come down there with disposable income. We want the city to be safe. And I don't think we have the type of bars. I think Lowell has some very high-powered bars in there that I don't believe belong here. And I think this is, I don't know how we could do it, but I think the planning department or Mr. Manager, maybe bring a group of people together to talk about, okay, how do we deal with this situation? We are a city, but how do we make this a truly safe city? And how can we encourage the right type of businesses with those? I mean, there are a lot of bars. There are bars down there that families go into. They're very supportive. They're very well run, and they're safe. I mean, I think many of us know all of them. But there is another issue and there's another problem in this city, and we have to eliminate it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this, Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's like a revolving door, Mr. Manager, with a couple of these locations. You know, they once they get in trouble, they either sell or they change to another LLC. Now we get Bar 74, that was Mill City, and now there's Revolution, that was, well, they were both Suds and Ballroom. Do they not require, doesn't a license, every time they change LLCs, do they have to come before the license commission? Do they just like change managers? I mean, it's like we're chasing our tail when it comes to this stuff. I mean, look, there was a young lady found at 4 a.m. in that place. I mean, Council Samara's right. They're violating the rules, unless, you know, the rules of closing. So, you know, this what's popping, I think it's going to continue. I agree with Councilor Lee. We do have some ordinance. I thought it was you needed a permit if you're going to have you know, some popular DJ or something at an establishment. Maybe we're going to take it further, that you can't just have 1,500 people sign up and get T-shirts and, you know, sort of invade the city, the bars. So
We will find out what happened, and we will take the appropriate steps to make sure it's punished swiftly and severely, and that it won't happen in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. All right, moving on to announcements. If there are no announcements, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn by Councilor Rourke, second by Councilor Samaras. All in favor, all opposed? Stand adjourned.